power station from closure is being sued by a former employee who claims the company lied to state officials to procure funding. Our Chase Campbell has the details.
A former executive is accusing a West Virginia energy company of defrauding state officials to secure a $50 million loan for the Pleasants power plant. A recent filing in a federal lawsuit against Omnis Global Technologies and its founder Simon Hodson alleges the company made false statements to West Virginia officials to obtain funding. According to the complaint, plaintiff Michelle Christian worked as vice president of government relations from 2020 to 2023. She claims Hodson repeatedly misrepresented his company's finances and technological capabilities while pursuing a $50 million forgivable loan from the state to transition the plant from burning coal to producing energy with hydrogen. The lawsuit alleges Hodson told West Virginia officials he had secured hundreds of millions of dollars from the Federal Department of Energy when he hadn't even qualified to apply for the funding. Christian says she confronted Hodson about these misrepresentations in August 2023 and refused to lie to government officials on his behalf, telling state officials that Hodson was providing inaccurate information. Omnis ultimately secured the $50 million low-interest loan, according to the complaint, only after Hodson had removed Christian from the project. The lawsuit claims the Pleasant power plant is still operating as a coal-fired facility today, with no indication of producing the coal-to-hydrogen technology Hodson promised state authorities. The Pleasants project isn't the only venture Christian says was built on misrepresentations. The complaint details similar allegations about Omnis Building Technologies, a separate company under Hodson's control that was supposed to revolutionize affordable housing construction. According to the lawsuit, Omnis Building Technologies built a $40 million facility in Bluefield, promising to employ 300 people manufacturing concrete homes that could be built in days. The project received over $1 million in federal grant money for land development and had backing from then-Governor Jim Justice, who attended a groundbreaking ceremony in March 2022. But Christian says the facility never commenced operations. The complaint states that even now in 2025, the company is still predicting the facility won't be fully operational until summer 2026, an assertion corroborated by reporting from our sister station WVVA, who've also covered the project's multiple delays. It also alleges that a third company, Omnis Sublimation Recovery Technologies, was supposed to open a facility in Wyoming County, West Virginia, to extract rare earth metals. According to the suit, that project never materialized either. As the complaint's allegations conclude, quote, the Bluefield facility is vacant and not operating, the Wyoming County project never advanced, and the Pleasant Power Station is still working as a coal-fired power plant today, with no indication the facility will produce any coal to hydrogen. The lawsuit also paints a picture of a workplace dominated by religious discrimination by Hodson and other high-ranking figures in his companies who were members of the Latter-day Saints Church. Christian says when she complained about sex-based harassment and refused to mislead government officials, she was fired in September 2023. Omnis denies the allegations. In their legal response, the company's attorneys say they deny making any false statements to state or federal officials, deny the discrimination claims, and assert that Christian resigned. The company also claims Christian sent hundreds of emails with attachments to personal accounts after being told to stop working, alleging she misappropriated company property. Christian is seeking damages for lost wages, emotional distress, and punitive damages. The case is pending in federal court in Pennsylvania, where Christian lives. Chase Campbell, WTAP News.